Hi, in this video I want to talk about the idea that there's a double fulfillment of Matthew 24. You see, after studying this for several years, over 20 years now, and having written books on it and multiple videos, people realize that yes, Jesus definitely did include the first century destruction of Jerusalem in Matthew chapter 24's all of that discourse. But they say actually, it's trying to maintain their belief in futurism at the same time, that there's a double fulfillment concept. Now, I've had the privilege of saying several times to different people that there are double fulfillments of prophecy in the Bible. The Bible talked about the son of David building the temple, the house of the Lord, and that, of course, was Solomon. And Jesus Christ was the greater son of David, who said, "Upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell won't prevail against it." But notice that one of the prophecies is in the Old Testament being fulfilled, and the second fulfillment is in the New Testament after the cross. There's no instances of both fulfillments occurring after the cross. It's always one in the Old, but the greater one in the New. And if anything's prophesied and comes to pass in the New Covenant time, it's the greatest manner of fulfillment that there could ever be, because, again, the only time there were dual fulfillments of prophecies was when one of them was in a shadowy form in the Old Testament times, and the greater fulfillment occurred after the cross with Jesus and the church. Now, in Matthew 24, the Bible talks about tribulation such as never was nor ever should be. And it's so popular a basis around which to form labels, for example, of what prophetic system any given person might adhere to, that there's pre-tribulation raptures, there's mid-tribulation, there's post-tribulation, and I believe that the tribulation of Matthew 24 was fulfilled 2,000 years ago, so you couldn't get any more post-tribulation than believing it was 2,000 years ago. But people say, yes, I can see first century Jerusalem being destroyed as a fulfillment of that warning to flee. Because the Bible does tell us in Matthew chapter 24 that when Jesus' disciples would see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth let him understand, then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. And it talks about those on the housetops, those in the field, and so forth and so on, because then shall be great tribulation. That was the reason for their flight. But that cannot be fulfilled more than once. It cannot be that there's an initial fulfillment in the first century and a second fulfillment in our day or our future, nor can it be that there's an agreement of how the greater fulfillment of the tribulation of the first century would be in our day or our future, because of this one simple clause mentioned right in verse 21. It says that that great tribulation would be such as was not since the beginning of time, nor ever shall be. Now, since the beginning of time, he's talking about the past, before this great tribulation would occur. There's none before it that could ever come to par and match it. There's none that ever shall be in the future. So if there's no tribulation that will equal this in its greatness before it happens, any time in the past or any time after in the future, after it happens, then how can it be fulfilled twice? You can't fulfill something twice when it says there's nothing in the future that'll be like it and nothing in the past that ever was like it. I mean, it's absolutely, plainly, flatly, blatantly stating it will not be fulfilled more than once. That's exactly what you get out of that. You see, if there was a tribulation in our future that is on par with the tribulation in the first century, well, Jesus was incorrect when he said, nor ever shall be, such as was not since the beginning of the world, nor such as ever shall be. He was wrong, because in the future, from the first century, there would be a tribulation equal to it. And then you can't say that, well, our tribulation in our future is going to be greater than that because that was just a shadow of what's going to happen in our future. No, because he says it would be great, and that greatness would never occur again. In order for something to be greater than that, it has to have that greatness and go beyond it. But it says that greatness of a tribulation never was since the beginning of the world and never shall be. So very simple explanation. Didn't take long for me to say this at all, that there cannot be a double fulfillment of the tribulation. And in Matthew 24, this tribulation is the highlight of the whole chapter. And so, hope that clarifies things. When you start to see that Jesus said things that were definitely fulfilled in the first century, don't go reaching for straws just to maintain a belief that you maybe always held and had always been taught about a future tribulation. Just abandon the false doctrine. Change your belief if you have to. I did. I changed beliefs when I saw these things. And Jesus had distinctly made the statement in verse 34 that all of those events would happen in one generation. So how can that be fulfilled more than once and in more than one generation anyway? It said that generation would not pass till all those things be fulfilled. And when he said all those things, he wasn't talking about every prophecy ever made. He was talking about all these things, the things that he outlined all throughout Matthew 24, beginning with the temple destruction. So I hope that's helped you understand. There's not a dual fulfillment of Matthew 24, with one being in the first century and one in our day or in our future. God bless.